"Don't move. I tried to catch you. You just slipped." That's what my daughter-in-law said while I lay on the stairs, gasping. I remember the push. I remember the look on her face. At the hospital, they called it a fall. Back home, little things were wrong. Opened mail, moved papers, a stranger's card on my table. And then a neighbor let me hear something I wasn't meant to hear. That's when I knew this wasn't care. It was a plan. Before I show you what was on that porch recording, tap subscribe, tell me where you're watching from, and please share this with one person you love, because anyone can end up in a situation like this. Now let's get into it. My name is Gloria Whitaker. I'm 66 years old, widowed, and not the type to ask for help unless I really need it. I don't like drama, and I've never been one to meddle. I mind my business, keep my bills paid, and take care of the house my husband and I built from the ground up. That house means everything to me. It's more than bricks and wood. It's where my memories live. I was never a woman who needed much. Just give me my porch, my tea in the morning, and I'd stay out of everybody's way. That was the deal I made with the world after my husband Lawrence passed away. And for a while, the world respected that. We built this house together, Lawrence and I. Every tile, every coat of paint, every little creak in the stairs had his fingerprints on it. He died 11 years ago, but somehow this place still breathes him. It's not a big house, not flashy, but it's mine. Ours. I've kept up with everything since. Bills, repairs, even the roof when the storm took half of it last year. I did it all myself. At 66, I wasn't helpless. Tired, maybe, but never helpless. When my son Tobias married Kenya, I didn't flinch. I welcomed her into our family with the same grace I hoped someone would offer me if I ever became a daughter-in-law. Kenya was polite, elegant, polished, the kind of woman who always had her nails done and her phone turned face down. She smiled just enough to seem warm, but never too much. Still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Tobias loved her. That was enough for me. They'd visit every couple of Sundays, stay for a few hours. I'd make catfish and cornbread. Kenya would nibble at her plate and scroll through her phone under the table. And Tobias, he'd just beam. Like he finally had everything a man could want. A wife, a job, and a mama who didn't ask too many questions. But that changed slowly. Kenya began coming by alone. "Just checking in," she'd say. Tobias had work. She'd bring over tea, fancy stuff, hibiscus and ginger blends, and sit with me while I watched my crime shows. At first, I thought it was sweet. Maybe she was trying to bond. Then she started pointing out things. "You know, these stairs are a fall hazard." "Why do you keep all your documents in a shoebox, Mama G? There are apps for this now." "You ever think about moving somewhere easier? Somewhere without all this?" I'd laugh it off, but it kept coming. "What happens to the house if something happens to you?" "Tobias said the deed's still in your name. That true?" That one stuck with me. Something about the way she asked, like it wasn't a question. Like she already knew the answer and was testing whether I'd lie. Still, I kept my peace. That's how I was raised. Don't start fires just because someone's playing with matches. Then came the day I found her upstairs. I had gone to the grocery store, came back with 2 bags of fruit and some paper towels, and found Kenya in my bedroom. "Looking for the bathroom," she said quick. Too quick. "There's a bathroom downstairs." Upstairs smelled like my lavender drawers. She didn't. She left not long after that. But a strange feeling settled in my chest and stayed there. It got worse when I found the realtor's card, sitting on the coffee table like it belonged there. A shiny blue logo with gold lettering. I picked it up. The name was unfamiliar. The handwriting on the back wasn't. "Interested buyer. Just exploring options. Kenya." When she showed up next, I didn't bring it up. I wanted to see if she would. She didn't. Instead, she talked about how she'd just seen a documentary on elder care. "A lot of folks your age are choosing to simplify," she said, casually sipping her tea. "Sell the house, downsize, move closer to healthcare, seems smart." I nodded, but my stomach turned. Not because of the tea, because I finally understood. She wasn't visiting me out of kindness. She was casing the place. prepping her angle. And Tobias? Still smiling, still saying things like, "Kenya's got a good head on her shoulders." He meant it. He believed in her. And I loved him too much to say what I was really thinking. But I started locking my bedroom door at night, just in case. The strange thing about manipulation is that it never starts with a slap. It starts with a favor. Favors are just contracts without paper. The week after I found that realtor card, Kenya came by again. She had a tote bag in one hand and a tray of sliced mangoes in the other. Said she'd gotten a deal on them from some new organic place. Sat right down on my couch like she owned it. "I thought I'd organize a few things for you," she said, already moving toward the hall closet. "You've got envelopes from 2009 in here, Mama G." I didn't remember asking her to clean anything, but I didn't stop her either. Maybe I wanted to believe she meant well. Maybe I just didn't have the energy to start a fight I wasn't ready to finish. She sorted through my closet, tossed half my papers in a recycling bag, and made little labels for some bins she'd brought in her trunk. Said it was just a hobby, organizing people's messes. "Where's the deed to the house?" she asked casually, like she was asking where I kept the salt. "I can scan it for you, store it in the cloud." I didn't answer. She kept her smile up, but didn't ask again. That night, I stayed up late going through the closet myself. She'd moved my insurance papers, the letter from the VA, my will. She didn't throw them away, just shifted them somewhere less obvious, like she wanted me to ask her for them later. The next time she came, she brought flowers. "Sunflowers. Your favorite, right?" They were lilies. She'd also brought her laptop, sat at the kitchen table like she was setting up shop. "I figured I'd help you sort through your emails," she said, already typing. "You probably get a lot of junk." "I can handle my emails just fine," I said. She paused, smiled, and shut the laptop. "Of course, Mama G, just trying to lighten the load." I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I smiled too, but my jaw ached from how tight I kept it. Later that week, I caught her in the garage, not doing anything, just standing there, staring at the shelves. When I asked what she was looking for, she said, "Just checking what you need restocked. Tobias told me you keep a pantry out here." I never told Tobias that. It was like she was measuring me, my routines, the layout, how often I went out, where I kept my medicine, how many stairs I had to climb to get to my bedroom. Kenya wasn't just hovering anymore. She was preparing. That's when Miss Yvette said something. I was walking to my mailbox when she waved at me from her porch. "That girl of yours sure is around a lot lately," she said, sipping her coffee. I laughed a little. "She's got time on her hands." Yvette tilted her head. "You ever need someone to watch the place, let me know. I got eyes." She said it like a joke, but something in her voice said otherwise. I nodded. The next weekend, Tobias finally came by with Kenya. "You're looking good, Ma," he said, giving me a hug that felt rushed. Kenya stood behind him, smiling with that same tilted head expression like she'd just stepped out of a magazine shoot. We had lunch, roast chicken and greens. Kenya barely touched her plate. Tobias asked me if I'd considered the senior community they sent me brochures for. I told him I was fine where I was. Kenya spoke up then. "But don't you get lonely? Wouldn't you rather be around folks your age, with an on-call nurse just a button away?" "I've made it this far," I said. "I can keep going." She smiled again, too long this time. After they left, I noticed the drawer where I kept my checkbook was ajar. Nothing was missing, at least not yet. But the lock on that drawer was flimsy. I made a note to move it. Locks keep out strangers. They don't stop family with a plan one day. I couldn't find my medicine. The bottle was in the wrong cabinet and 2 pills were missing. Kenya said she must have accidentally knocked it over and cleaned it up. "Didn't want you to trip on it," she said. Always the protector. Always just in time. Then came the envelope. A plain white envelope on my dining table. I didn't leave it there. Inside was a 1-page form titled Advance Directive, Power of Attorney. At the bottom, Tobias's name was typed. Kenya's handwriting filled the rest. I stared at it for 5 full minutes. When they came by again, I didn't mention it. I wanted to see how far she'd go. "Did you leave something here?" I asked Kenya casually. She looked up from her phone. "No, why?" "No reason." "Just found a random envelope." She didn't blink. "Must have been junk mail." I nodded. And then I locked my bedroom door that night, and the night after, and the one after that. But locks don't stop people who believe they already own the key. One morning, I woke up and found Kenya in the backyard. She was talking on the phone, pacing, barefoot like she lived there. I cracked open the window just enough to hear her. "Just wait. She's stubborn, but once Tobias talks to her, she'll cave. It's not like she's got anyone else." That's when I knew. This wasn't about helping me. It wasn't about care. It was about taking, quietly, legally, before I could stop it. And if I did try to stop it, well, that's when things would get dangerous. The morning it happened, the sky was low and gray, the kind of color that makes your bones ache even before the rain starts. I was at the kitchen table, paying bills the old-fashioned way, pen, paper, and a checkbook, when my phone rang. It was the bank. The woman on the other end had a gentle voice, but the words she used were anything but gentle. The caller ID showed 8:41 a.m. Bad news keeps office hours. "Mrs. Whitaker, we're calling to confirm a withdrawal for $1,800 for outpatient medical services. It's listed under your account from yesterday morning." I felt my stomach drop. I didn't authorize any withdrawal, and I sure didn't have any outpatient anything. "Are you sure? It's a legitimate provider. Someone logged in from your account and authorized it. We just need to verify." My hands trembled as I pressed the phone harder against my ear. "I'm sure. Freeze it. Reverse it if you can." The woman on the phone said she'd open a fraud case, but it could take days. When I hung up, my palms were damp. I sat there staring at my kitchen wall clock, watching the second-hand twitch, feeling like something inside me had already cracked. Kenya arrived an hour later with a paper bag full of groceries, eggs, bread, some herbal tea. She set it down like she always did, like she lived here. "Mama G, you're pale. What's wrong?" she asked, slipping off her jacket. I looked at her, really looked at her. $1,800 from my account for some medical service I never had. She blinked, then gave a soft laugh. "Oh, that's probably just a clerical error. Insurance companies are messy. Let me call them for you." "I'll call them myself," I said. Her smile stayed, but her eyes cooled a shade. "Of course. Just thought I'd help." I stood up, closing the checkbook. "I want to talk to Tobias." That's when her smile cracked. Just a flicker, but enough. "He's busy today. Big presentation. Don't worry him with little things." "Little things? Someone's draining my account." She turned her head, pretending to study the tea boxes she'd brought. "Mama G, please. It's probably nothing." I didn't answer. I walked away to the living room. She followed but stayed quiet. That night, I sat at my desk and wrote everything down. The withdrawal, the realtor card, the missing pills, the envelope with Tobias's name. I wrote like my life depended on it. Maybe it did. Days passed. The bank sent a letter confirming an investigation. I called Tobias twice. Both times he said he was in meetings. Kenya answered once. "He's swamped, Mama G. I'll tell him you called." I stopped calling. Instead, I started checking my home security footage more carefully. The system wasn't fancy, but it caught enough. Who came and went, what time they arrived. The camera by the front door showed Kenya letting herself in even when Tobias wasn't with her. Sometimes she stayed 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, always in different rooms, always moving things. I exported the clips to a thumb drive, then made a second copy and labeled both with dates. I started hiding my valuables in odd places. My wedding ring in the sugar jar, my checkbook under the sofa cushion, my will in the freezer between 2 bags of frozen peas. It was absurd, but it made me feel a little less exposed. Then one morning, I caught her in the act. I was halfway down the hall when I saw her through the cracked door of my study. She had my file box open, papers spread across my desk, her phone in her hand like she was taking pictures. I pushed the door open. "What are you doing?" I asked. She jumped. "Oh, Mama G, you scared me. I was just looking for the bathroom again?" She laughed too loudly. "No, just tidying up. Tobias said you were overwhelmed with paperwork. I thought I'd help." I stared at her. "Put it back." She hesitated, then slowly stacked the papers, tucking her phone into her pocket. "Of course." I didn't move until she left the room. My heart was pounding. My wrist hurt from how hard I gripped the doorframe. Later, I found a voicemail from Yvette. She sounded hesitant. "Gloria, it's me. I don't want to meddle, but that young lady's been at your house a lot. I've heard things. If you need someone to back you up, you've got me." I sat with that message for a long time. For years, I'd been self-sufficient, the woman people came to for help. Now I was the one needing a witness. That night, I hid my journals in the attic and slept with my phone under my pillow. Kenya might have been clever, but she wasn't invisible. She couldn't hide forever. The next morning, Tobias called. "Hey, Ma, Kenya said you've been feeling stressed. Everything okay?" "I'm fine," I said flatly. "Just tired." "Well, take it easy. We'll come by this weekend." "Good," I said. "I'll be here." When I hung up, I felt something shift inside me. Fear was still there, but underneath it, something harder had started to grow. Resolve. I went to the window. Across the yard, Yvette was watering her roses. She glanced up and gave me a small nod like she already knew. It was only a matter of time before Kenya pushed too far, and when she did, I'd be ready. I woke up sore that morning. Not the kind of soreness that comes from age, but the kind that whispers something's about to happen. The wind outside was sharp, carrying that mid-October bite, and every part of me felt alert, like my body knew what my mind hadn't yet figured out. I took my time getting dressed. Blue sweater, slippers with the memory foam worn flat. I made a pot of tea, glanced out the kitchen window. Kenya's car wasn't in the driveway. Good. I took a seat at the kitchen table and started writing again. I had a small notebook now, one I kept hidden behind the microwave. Every date, every odd thing, every whisper of intrusion. It was all there. And then, around 10:12 a.m., I heard the key. I didn't move. Kenya didn't knock anymore. She let herself in like the house already had her name on the deed. I listened to her footsteps. She walked like someone who wasn't afraid of being seen, purposely, assertively. "Morning, Mama G," she called out. Her voice too bright, like she was walking into brunch, not into someone else's life. I stood up slowly. "Morning." She walked into the kitchen, holding a reusable grocery bag, almond milk, crackers, one of those little frozen detox smoothie kits. Nothing I ever asked for. "You sleep okay?" she asked. "I sleep fine." She nodded. "I was thinking, maybe we should go through your upstairs linen closet today. You've got like 5 sets of sheets and only one bed." "I like options," I said. She laughed, but her eyes scanned the kitchen like she was checking inventory. "I'm heading up," she said casually, like it was her house. I followed. I didn't say why, didn't ask permission, just walked behind her, watching how she moved. She didn't look back. The stairs creaked beneath our steps. Halfway up, I gripped the railing tighter. At the top, I paused. Kenya had already turned toward the hall closet. "Kenya," I said. She turned halfway. "Yeah?" "I'd like you to stop going through my things." Her head tilted. "I'm helping you. Tobias said, I don't care what Tobias said. I'm telling you, stop." There was a pause. Her mouth twitched. "You know," she said, quieter now, "you've been awfully paranoid lately." I stepped closer. "No, I've been careful. You're making this harder than it needs to be." "Harder for who?" She stared at me. Her face had gone blank, like someone shutting off a screen. And then I turned. My heel pivoted. I meant to walk away. I didn't hear her step. I didn't hear anything but the snap of my own breath. Then, a shove. It wasn't hard, but it was sharp. Just enough. A hand between my shoulder blades, a quick burst. My foot missed the step. The world spun sideways. All I remember is falling, my hand hitting the banister, my back bouncing off the edge of a step, then pain, sharp cold pain, my vision blurred, then nothing. Silence has sharp edges. I came to on the landing. My body was twisted. My wrist throbbed like it was pulsing outside my skin. My ribs screamed every time I breathed. Kenya was kneeling next to me. "Oh my God! Mama G! Are you okay? You tripped. I tried to catch you. I swear." I couldn't speak. The pain locked my throat. "I'm calling 911, she said, already on her phone. "Just hold on. Don't move." Her voice wavered, but it didn't sound scared. It sounded rehearsed. The paramedics arrived quickly. She met them at the door, guiding them with frantic hand gestures. "She's been dizzy lately," she said. "I told her to take it easy on the stairs." They loaded me onto a stretcher. My vision faded in and out. Kenya rode with me in the ambulance. She held my hand too tightly. "You're gonna be okay, Mama G," she whispered. Just a little accident. At the hospital, things moved quickly. X-rays, pain meds, questions. Kenya answered most of them, spoke over me when I tried. "She's been forgetting things," she told the nurse. "I'm worried. There's been some confusion at home." I turned to speak, but the words were syrup in my throat. When Tobias arrived, he looked like a ghost. "Mama?" he whispered, stepping into the room. Kenya threw her arms around him. "It was awful. She just fell. I couldn't stop it." He looked at me. "What happened?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Kenya sniffled, wiping tears that hadn't fallen. "She missed a step. I tried to help." His face twisted. Hurt, confused. I saw doubt flash across his eyes, but only for a second. He turned to me. "You didn't see anything? You don't remember?" I tried to nod, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I blinked too slowly. Maybe the medicine made me too soft. "I'll handle things," Kenya said. "She needs rest. I'll take care of everything." And no one stopped her. Not yet. The hospital bed was stiff and too white. I lay there, ribs bandaged, wrist in a hard cast, an IV dripping cold into my arm. The room smelled like antiseptic and soup that had been reheated too many times. Outside the window, the sky had gone that sad afternoon blue. I hadn't slept. Not really. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the push. Every time I blinked, I saw Kenya's face twisted in concern, her voice too high, too sweet. Tobias visited the next day, alone. Kenya said she had a migraine. "You look better," he said, sitting beside me. I didn't answer. They said it was a bad fall. "It was a push," I croaked. His eyes widened. "What?" "She pushed me." His mouth opened, then closed again. He looked toward the window. "Mama, you've been on a lot of meds. Maybe you slipped." I turned my head away. I couldn't argue. Not from that bed. He stayed 15 minutes, kissed my forehead, said he'd bring soup tomorrow. I didn't want soup. I wanted my life back. When I got home a few days later, Kenya had freshened things up. That's what she said when she met me at the door. New curtains, my armchair moved, my photo albums stacked neatly in a plastic bin. "Easier to dust," she said, her voice as cheerful as a kindergarten teacher. I sat in silence. Every breath was still a struggle. That night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. My wrist itched under the cast. I needed to do something. The next morning, I called Yvette. She picked up on the second ring. "Gloria? I need to talk to you." She was at my door within 15 minutes. She wore a scarf and carried a little notebook. No fuss, no waiting. "I heard it all," she said as soon as she sat down. "The whole thing. I was in my garden pulling weeds. That girl doesn't know how loud she gets." My heart pounded. "What did you hear?" Yvette flipped open her notebook. She yelled, "Don't touch my papers again." Then something about ruining things for them. And I heard the word us, like they were in it together. "You must have been at the top of the stairs when it happened." I stared at her. "You wrote it down?" "Verbatim, with the time. I even checked my clock." Tears welled in my eyes. Not from pain, from relief. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. I record most of what happens on my porch. I like to keep track of what the neighborhood sounds like. Caught the whole thing. Audio's a little fuzzy, but you can make it out. She'd already backed it up to cloud and saved a lossless copy. She played the recording. There it was. Kenya's voice. Sharp. Angry. Keep pushing me and see what happens. A pause, then a scuffle. Then nothing. We later had the clip, cleaned for clarity. The words stayed the same. My hand covered my mouth. Yvette paused the audio. Gloria, you've got her. This ain't suspicion anymore, it's proof. That night, I checked my own security camera, the one above the front porch. The footage didn't show the fall, but it showed Kenya arriving that morning alone. It showed her entering without knocking. It showed her leaving nearly 2 hours later, alone again, looking around before locking the door. I saved every second, transferred it to a flash drive, and labeled it in big black letters. Insurance. The next morning, I dug through the freezer and found my will, still tucked behind the peas. My journal was still behind the microwave. I added new entries. Kenya came over in the afternoon, smiling, carrying a small gift bag. I got you a lavender-scented heating pad. Thought it might help with the ribs. Thank you, I said. She looked around. Where's Tobias? At work? She sat down. You seem quiet. I stared at her. I remember what happened. Her smile didn't move. What do you mean? You pushed me. She laughed softly. Mama G, you're still healing. The mind plays tricks. No, but the porch doesn't. And neither does Yvette. Her eyes sharpened. The smile dropped. You think anyone's gonna believe a nosy neighbor with a cheap phone mic? She asked, her voice lower now. I think Detective Ramos might. Her face paled just slightly. You wouldn't. Try me. Predators relax when prey pretends to graze. She stood up. Fine. But if you think you're going to make a case out of this, you better be careful. You're not as sharp as you used to be. And you're not as clever as you think you are. She left. No goodbyes. I sat in silence, breathing through the pain, watching her car back out of my driveway. She thought she still had time. She didn't know. Her clock had already started ticking. It started like a trickle, quiet and easy to miss. 2 days after Kenya stormed out, I received a piece of mail addressed not to me, but to the caregiver of Gloria Whitaker. Inside was a welcome packet from an elder law firm. Brochures, legal forms, a folded note clipped to the front. Thank you for your guardianship inquiry. We've included a draft for emergency filing per your request. I read it 3 times. My heart didn't just pound, it punched. The filing date? 2 days after the fall. I picked up the phone, called the firm myself, asked them who had contacted them, what documentation they were using. The receptionist put me on hold. A moment later, someone else came on. A man, polite, professional. Yes, the request was made by your daughter-in-law, Kenya Whitaker. She stated you were experiencing progressive cognitive decline and a recent fall was the turning point. We were told it was urgent for safety reasons. I nearly dropped the phone. She submitted medical proof? Not yet, but she mentioned documents were forthcoming. I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat at the table for nearly an hour just staring. She was trying to take everything, and she was using my injuries she caused, to make the case. I made a copy of the brochure packet, added it to my growing file. Then I pulled out the hospital paperwork. Kenya had signed as my emergency contact, but nowhere had I authorized her to speak on my behalf. She wasn't family, not in the legal sense. Tobias was my son. Kenya was an accessory by marriage. That distinction was going to matter. The next morning, I called my primary doctor, asked for an updated cognitive evaluation, scheduled it for the following week. I needed proof. Not just that I wasn't declining, but that I was actively protecting myself. Yvette came over that afternoon. We sat on the porch, both of us bundled up against the chill. I told you she was slick, she muttered. But guardianship? That's another level. I think she's been planning this for months, I said, slowly testing boundaries. She's arrogant. That's her weakness. Yvette wasn't wrong. That night, I went back through all my security footage. I combed through timestamps, looked for inconsistencies. Kenya had been coming even more often than I remembered, sometimes when I wasn't even home. The front door, back door, side garage, she knew every point of entry. The next day, I finally called Tobias. "I need to see you, alone." There was a pause. "Is everything okay?" "No, but it will be. Come by after work." He arrived around 6:15. Kenya wasn't with him. He looked tired. Creased shirt, distracted eyes. I invited him in, sat him at the kitchen table. "Tobias, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to be honest." He nodded slowly. "Did you know Kenya filed for guardianship?" His eyebrows pinched. "What? No." "She used your name. Told them I was confused, that I needed someone to manage my decisions." He looked stunned, but I couldn't tell if it was guilt or true surprise. I didn't know she took it that far," he whispered. I handed him the packet. He read it. His mouth parted. "She told me she was worried about your safety, that you were forgetting things. I didn't think she meant this." I leaned forward. "She's been moving my things, hiding documents, making withdrawals. Tobias, she pushed me." He jerked back. "You really think—" "I know." He rubbed his face. "She told me you missed a step, that she tried to catch you." "She lied." I played Yvette's recording again. Kenya's voice, clear and venomous. "You're not going to ruin this for us." Tobias went pale. "I don't know what to say," he murmured. "You don't have to say anything, but I need you to hear this. If you don't stand by me, I will stand alone. I am not letting her take this house. Not after everything your father and I put into it. Not after what she did." He swallowed. His eyes watered, but he nodded. "I believe you." That was something. Not everything, but something. The following week, I met with my doctor. She ran a full battery of tests: memory recall, logic puzzles, word associations. When we were done, she smiled. "Gloria, your mind is sharper than mine after 2 cups of coffee." I asked for a written report. She printed it, signed it, and handed it to me. "Anything else I should know?" she asked. "Not yet," I said, "but there's a storm brewing." I compiled everything: my own medical records, Yvette's affidavit, the audio clip, the packet from the law office, the security footage. I even included a screenshot of the $1,800 withdrawal. It filled a thick manila envelope. I labeled it simply, "Truth." Then I made a copy. That night, I placed 1 copy in my locked closet and gave the other to Yvette. "If anything happens to me, hand this to the police." She didn't argue, just nodded. "Kenya's going to make another move," I said. "I can feel it." "She's desperate," Yvette replied. "People like that get sloppy." I looked out the window, watching the lights of Kenya's car turn into my driveway. She was right on time. The mask had cracked. She just didn't know it yet. By the time she noticed, the clock would already be loud, and I wasn't afraid anymore. Let her come. The woman who stepped into my living room wore quiet authority like a second skin. Detective Carla Ramos didn't announce herself loudly. She didn't need to. It was in her stance, upright, calm, observant. She had short, dark hair swept back into a twist, a thick folder under her arm, and the kind of expression that told you she'd already read more than you thought she had. She didn't sit until I offered, and when she did, she placed the folder neatly in her lap and gave me a nod. "Mrs. Whitaker, I've reviewed the packet you submitted. It's thorough." "I've had time to prepare," I said, steadying my voice. "You did more than prepare. You built a case." Yvette sat across from her, arms folded like a bodyguard. She hadn't said a word yet, but I knew she would if she needed to. "I've also spoken to your neighbor," Ramos added, tilting her head toward Yvette. "She's consistent, very detailed." "I write everything down," Yvette said plainly. Ramos smiled just a bit, then turned back to me. "Let's walk through it again, slowly." So I did, from the first uninvited visit to the push, from the missing pills to the fake guardianship filing. Every moment, every change in Kenya's tone, every withdrawal, every odd smile. I gave it all. I handed her the security footage timestamps, the medical reports, the audio clip. Ramos listened. She didn't take many notes. Just let me speak. Her eyes never drifted. When I finished, she opened her folder and added my documents to her own. Have you spoken to your son about any of this? Yes, he heard the recording. He said he believes me. But does he believe her? I didn't answer right away. Ramos leaned forward slightly. I'm going to be honest with you, Mrs. Whitaker. These cases get tricky. There's no bruising pattern that screams push over fall. Unless someone admits it, the proof has to come from context. That's what you've built here, a strong context. She paused. But we need a little more. I raised an eyebrow. More than a recording? More than her yelling. More than you saying she pushed. We need intent. A thread that ties it all together, legally. I looked at Yvette. She reached into her purse and handed over a flash drive. Check the audio file at 11:07 a.m. There's something there. Ramos took the drive. What am I looking for? Something she didn't know she was saying. The real her. 2 days passed. I barely slept. I kept the lights on. Kenya hadn't come by since my conversation with Tobias, but I knew she wasn't done. On the third morning, Ramos returned. Same calm, same folder, but this time she wore a look I hadn't seen before. Resolution. She sat down and opened the folder slowly. Inside was a transcript. She was speaking to someone on the phone outside, Ramos said. Didn't realize the porch mic caught the whole thing. We had it enhanced. She cleared her throat and read aloud. Doesn't matter. She's slow, she's scared, and Tobias won't stand up to me. We'll have the house by Christmas one way or another. I didn't speak. I just stared. That's not frustration, Ramos continued. That's premeditation. That's motive. That's intent. I exhaled. It felt like I hadn't taken a full breath in days. What happens now? Yvette asked. Ramos closed the folder. We'll file for charges. Attempted elder exploitation. Possible assault. Fraud. If she tries to cover anything now, it'll only add to the list. That afternoon, I sat by the window, watching, waiting. At exactly 4:10 p.m., a black sedan pulled up. 2 plainclothes officers stepped out. One knocked on Kenya and Tobias's door. The other stayed by the car. I didn't see the full exchange, just Kenya's reaction. Her face twisted in a way I hadn't seen before. Not fake shock, not sweet denial. It was rage. Cold, venomous rage. The kind that couldn't hide anymore. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She turned, walked back inside, then came out 10 minutes later with a bag. Small, like she already knew it was coming. They didn't cuff her in front of the house, but she didn't walk free either. Tobias wasn't home when it happened. I heard from him that night. A text. I didn't know it would end like this. I'm sorry. I didn't reply. I turned off my porch light early, sat in my chair, and watched the security feed one more time. Kenya, storming into my life. And finally, Kenya, being taken out of it. The next morning, Yvette brought cinnamon rolls. For celebration, she said. I'm still healing, I replied. Exactly, sugar helps. We ate on the porch, quietly, peacefully. The silence was the best part. Ramos called me that evening. If anything else shows up, you call me directly. You did good, Gloria. Most people don't make it this far. I wasn't alone, I said. No, you weren't. As I hung up, I finally allowed myself to feel it. Safety. Not the pretend kind where you tell yourself everything's fine. The real kind. The earned kind. Let the porch creak. Let the stairs groan. This house was mine. And no one was taking it. Kenya didn't show her face for 4 days. The house next door sat still. Tobias's truck was gone by sunrise back before sunset. I'd catch glimpses of him through my blinds, hunched, sluggish, like a man carrying a weight he never expected to hold. But Kenya vanished. Not a single slam of her car door, not a perfume trail lingering in the air, no phone calls on the porch, just silence. Her mask had cracked wide open, and all she could do now was hide behind what little was left. On the 5th morning, the silence broke. I was out front sweeping the walkway, slower than usual, my wrists still stiff, my ribs sore if I twisted too much, when I heard her. "Morning," she called out. Her voice didn't match her face. That syrupy sing-song tone she always used? Gone. It came out strained, forced, like she was dragging the words up from a dry well. I turned. Kenya stood at the bottom of my porch steps, wearing oversized sunglasses and holding a Tupperware dish. "I made banana bread," she said, holding it up like a peace offering. I just stared at her. "I figured—" She swallowed. "I figured we could talk." I didn't answer. She placed the dish on the porch rail, then stepped back. "You know," she said, looking up at me, "I never meant for it to go this far." "Define this far," I replied. Her mouth twitched. "All of it. The papers, the misunderstanding. You fell, Gloria, and now it's like you want me behind bars." I squinted. "You mean like how you wanted me in a home? Or under a guardianship I didn't ask for?" She sighed, arms folded. "You're not exactly easy to talk to. And you're not exactly trustworthy." She flinched. "I made mistakes," she said. "But Tobias, he still loves me. And this is all dramatic. You're painting me like some villain." "You pushed me. I didn't—" "You pushed me." Her mouth snapped shut. "I know what you did. Yvette heard it. The camera caught it. The police heard your voice. You planned to take everything. You weren't even subtle. I just wanted a future. You tried to steal mine." She took a shaky breath, her sunglasses slipping slightly, revealing eyes that were red and rimmed. "They're saying I could face jail time," she whispered. "You should have thought about that before you tried to ruin someone's life." Kenya didn't respond. She turned and walked back down the path, her shoulders pulled tight, the way someone walks when they know they're already condemned. The banana bread stayed on the porch. I didn't touch it. That night, Tobias showed up, alone again. He looked worn out, not just tired, hollow. "Can I come in?" I nodded. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where this all began months ago. The same spot where Kenya once asked about the deed. "She said she was trying to fix things," Tobias muttered. "Said she thought you'd forgive her." I shook my head. "You don't push someone down the stairs and expect banana bread to fix it." He cracked a smile, barely. "Ma, I don't know who she is anymore. She's exactly who she's always been. You just didn't want to see it." He looked down at his hands. "I feel like I let both of you down." "You did," I said gently. "But you're here now." He nodded, eyes glistening. "The detective asked me if I'd be willing to testify. I said yes." I blinked. "She told me I don't have to prove anything," he added. Just tell the truth. That's all I've ever wanted." He stood to leave, but paused at the door. "I don't know if my marriage is going to survive this." I looked at him, really looked at him. "Then maybe it wasn't built on the right things to begin with." He left in silence. A few days later, I got the official letter. Charges formally filed: fraud, financial exploitation, attempted guardianship under false pretenses, suspicion of assault. The document felt heavier than it should have, like justice had weight. Kenya's lawyer tried reaching out, said she wanted to settle things amicably, offered to drop the guardianship claim if I'd rescind my statement. I didn't even respond. Ramos said I didn't have to. "Silence speaks volumes," she told me. Yvette came by that evening with pie. We sat in the den, watching the local news. There was a segment about elder abuse, nothing about my case, of course, but it felt close, too close. "You're not just surviving," she said between bites. "You're setting an example." "I didn't ask to be an example," I said. "Neither did Rosa Parks, but here we are." We both laughed. The next morning, I found a letter in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a handwritten note in blocky script. "You think you won, but this isn't over." No name, but I knew who it was. I gave the note to Detective Ramos. She didn't look surprised. "She's unraveling," she said. "This only strengthens the case. Hang in there." That night, I locked every window, checked every camera. I didn't feel afraid, not really. But I felt prepared. Kenya might have tried to play the long game, but I was still standing, bruised, but not broken. And every piece she'd tried to move in secret had been brought to light. The facade was gone. Now all she had left was her face, and everyone could see it clearly. So, the first court hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning, 9 o'clock sharp. I wore a navy blue suit I'd bought 20 years ago for Lawrence's funeral. It still fit, but it hung looser now. My body had changed. Everything had. Tobias picked me up. Didn't say much on the drive. The radio played softly, some old jazz station I used to love but could barely hear now. He tapped the steering wheel the whole way like he had a rhythm in his head he couldn't shake. When we arrived, Ramos met us on the courthouse steps. She handed me a copy of the docket. Kenya's name. My name. The charges listed plainly. It looked surreal, like a movie script I didn't agree to star in. "She won't speak today," Ramos said. "It's just arraignment, but it's good to be present. Show them you're not invisible." I nodded. I didn't feel invisible anymore, just tired. Inside the courtroom, Kenya sat at the defense table, flanked by a woman in a stiff gray blazer. Kenya wore a beige blouse, minimal makeup. Her hair was pulled back tight. But even stripped down, her arrogance lingered. She glanced my way once, didn't blink, just stared. The judge called her name. She stood. Her lawyer spoke for her. "Not guilty, Your Honor. We request release on personal recognizance." The judge reviewed the documentation. "Given the nature of the allegations and supporting evidence, I'm approving conditional release, but this case is moving to pre-trial. You're not to contact the complainant in any way." Kenya didn't flinch, but her lawyer glanced at her sideways. As we left the room, she turned just slightly in her seat and smiled. Back home, everything felt louder. The refrigerator buzzed, the floor creaked more than usual. Even the wind pressing against the windows made me jump. But none of it scared me. Not anymore. Tobias helped me move the heavier furniture back where it belonged. We put my photo albums back on the shelf. I took down the cheap curtains Kenya had hung and put up my old ones, sun-bleached and threadbare. Thin fabric, honest light. It was still my house. "You okay?" he asked, placing the last chair. "I am now," I said. We didn't talk about Kenya. Not directly, but as he helped me relabel my folders and reset passwords on my accounts, I knew he understood. We weren't going back to normal. There was no such thing now, but there was still family, still blood, and some bonds survive more than betrayal. The next week, Yvette helped me install motion lights out back. She climbed the ladder herself, muttering that her knees were still better than mine. "I'm gonna miss the drama," she joked. "It's been a while since this neighborhood had something spicy." "You say that like it's a good thing," I said, passing her the screwdriver. "Well, I'd prefer spicy over tragic, and you made sure it didn't turn tragic." We stood back and admired her work. The light buzzed on, casting a wide beam across my lawn. It felt like drawing a line in the dirt. "No shadows left," I said quietly. Yvette gave a little salute. "Damn right." I started walking the stairs again the following week, just once a day, holding the rail one step at a time. I didn't look down, didn't look back. The pain still lingered in my side, in my wrist, but it was dull now. A memory, not a warning. One morning, as I reached the top, I whispered to myself, "Still mine," because it was. Tobias began stopping by more often. He brought soup sometimes just silence. We'd sit on the porch in the late afternoons. He didn't ask for forgiveness, and I didn't offer it outright. But every visit stitched something back together. "I filed for separation," he said one day. I didn't say anything. I thought love was about loyalty, but loyalty doesn't mean blindness. I looked over. "You're not the only one who learned something." "Yeah?" I nodded. Never hand someone a key to your house if they're still wearing a mask." He smiled at that. It was the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in months. I started sleeping better. The house breathed with me again. Kenya's trial date was set for 3 months out. Ramos said the DA had what they needed. The judge had already seen enough to keep the case moving. Some days I wondered what Kenya was doing, who she was speaking to, if she still believed she was the victim, if she was plotting another version of events in her head, one where I was the villain. But those thoughts came less and less. And when they did, I reminded myself she wasn't my responsibility anymore. Justice was in motion, and I had stairs to climb. That fall, I planted new rose bushes. Yvette came over with mulch and gloves and refused to let me dig alone. We worked for hours in the dirt, laughing at how out of shape we both were. When we were done, I stood back and admired the new buds. "They'll bloom next spring," she said. "New life." I nodded. Everything had changed, but the house remained, and so did I. Have you ever trusted someone only to realize they were slowly erasing you behind your back? What would you do if your own family started treating your life like a piece of property? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts, your stories, and how you think justice should be handled in situations like that. If you found this story gripping or eye-opening, do me a favor. Tap the like button, hit subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss what we post next. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story, someone who might be in a situation like Gloria's, share this video. It might help more than you know. Other stories are already up on your screen. Check those out next. And I'll see you tomorrow, same time, with a brand new one.